The massive space station orbited the blue-green planet of Zirion Prime, its crystalline spires catching the light of twin suns. Inside the royal viewing chamber, Queen Zarathus of the Galactic Coalition stood before the massive transparent wall, watching the construction work happening outside. Her forearms moved gracefully as she adjusted the controls of her observation scope, her silver skin gleaming under the soft lights. "Mother, you seem troubled," Princess Lyra Nis said as she entered the chamber. The younger alien shared her mother's elegant features but had inherited the distinctive golden markings that ran along her temples, marking her as next in line for the throne. Queen Zarathus sighed, a sound that resonated through her chest cavity in their species' unique way. "The engineering project is behind schedule again. Our best minds cannot solve the quantum resonance problem with the new defense grid. If we cannot complete it soon, the Void Reapers will break through our defenses when they return." The princess moved to stand beside her mother, looking out at the construction site. Hundreds of workers from different species moved around the skeletal framework of what would become the most advanced defense system in known space. Tall, insectoid Crothery welded joints with their natural plasma, while the blob-like Gelonians used their malleable bodies to reach impossible spaces. Flying Zephyrians darted between structures, carrying materials with their powerful wings. "What exactly is the problem?" Lyra Nis asked, genuinely curious about the technical difficulties. "The quantum field generators keep destabilizing when we try to link them together. Every time we think we have found a solution, the entire network collapses within hours. Our scientists say the mathematics are beyond current understanding. We may need to abandon the project and rely on conventional defenses." The princess frowned, her golden markings dimming slightly with worry. "But conventional defenses failed last time. Half the outer colonies were lost before the Void Reapers retreated to their dimension." "I know, my daughter. That is why this troubles me so much." As they talked, a small transport ship approached the station. It was unlike any vessel in the Coalition fleet, with angular lines and strange markings along its hull. The ship requested permission to dock, and, after running through standard security protocols, it was granted access to Bay 94. From the ship emerged a single figure that immediately caught the attention of station security. The being walked on two legs, had pale skin, and strange hair growing from the top of its head. Most unusual were its eyes, which seemed to constantly move and observe everything around them. The creature wore simple work clothes and carried a toolkit that contained instruments no one recognized. "What species is that?" asked Commander Vexstar, the station's security chief, speaking into his communication device. "According to our databases, it calls itself human. Species designation Terra Sol 3. They recently joined the Coalition as a probationary member. This one has requested to examine our construction project." "A probationary species wants to look at our most advanced defense system? That seems highly irregular." The request came with proper authorization codes. "Apparently, someone in the Coalition Council thinks they might be able to help." Commander Vexstar watched as the human was escorted through the station corridors. The creature seemed completely unbothered by the strange gravity, the different atmosphere, or the dozens of alien species it passed. Most beings showed some sign of nervousness when visiting a Coalition station for the first time, but this human appeared almost bored. Meanwhile, in the engineering section, Chief Engineer Morthgul was having another breakdown. His three eyes were bloodshot from staring at equations for days, and his tentacles moved frantically across multiple control surfaces as he tried yet another configuration for the quantum field generators. "Run simulation 7412, he commanded the computer. Running simulation. Results: critical failure after 4.7 hours. Cascade resonance collapse in sectors 7 through 15. Morthgul slammed one of his appendages against the console in frustration. "This is impossible. The mathematics are perfect. The energy calculations are correct. Why does it keep failing?" "Sir," his assistant Klarjan interrupted nervously, "there is a being here to see you. Says it wants to help with the project. Unless it can solve quantum mechanics in ways our greatest minds cannot, I am not interested," Morthgul replied without turning around. "Actually, sir, it claims to be from a species called humans. says it has experience with similar problems. This made Morthgul turn around. Humans? I have never heard of this species. What are their qualifications? I am not sure, sir. It just arrived and insisted on speaking with you directly. Before Morthgul could respond, the human walked into the engineering bay. The creature was smaller than most coalition species, but there was something about the way it moved that suggested confidence rather than weakness. Its strange eyes immediately went to the holographic displays showing the failed simulations. Interesting, the human said in perfect coalition standard, though its accent was unlike anything anyone had heard before. You are trying to create a linked quantum field network, but you are treating each generator as an independent system. Morthgul's eyes narrowed. Of course they are independent systems. That is how quantum field generators work. Each one creates its own stable field. The human shook its head and approached the displays. On Earth, we learned something important about quantum systems. Independence is an illusion. Every quantum system exists in relation to every other quantum system, whether we acknowledge it or not. Your generators are not failing because of flawed mathematics. They are failing because they are trying to exist in isolation when quantum mechanics demands connection. That is nonsense, Morthgul replied. Quantum fields are stable precisely because they are isolated from external interference. May I? The human asked, gesturing toward the control console. Morthgul was about to refuse when curiosity got the better of him. Very well. Show me this human understanding of quantum mechanics. The human's fingers moved across the controls with surprising familiarity. Instead of trying to isolate each generator, it began programming them to acknowledge and work with the quantum fluctuations of neighboring units. Rather than fighting the natural tendency of quantum systems to influence each other, the new configuration embraced it. Run simulation with these parameters, the human said. This will fail in minutes, Morthgul predicted, but he authorized the simulation anyway. The holographic display showed the defense grid powering up. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 4. The quantum fields remained stable, each one supporting and strengthening the others instead of interfering with them. By hour 8, the simulation was still running perfectly. Impossible, whispered Klargen. Morthgul stared at the display in shock. How did you know to do that? The human smiled, an expression that seemed strange to the aliens but somehow conveyed friendliness. Humans learned early that cooperation usually works better than isolation. We applied that principle to our technology. Sometimes the best solution is not to fight the problem, but to work with it. Word of the human's success spread quickly through the station. Within hours, engineers from every department were requesting consultations. The human, who introduced himself as Dr. James Chen from Earth's International Space Collective, proved to have an unusual ability to see problems from completely different angles. When the Zephyrian flight controllers were struggling with navigation algorithms in three-dimensional space, Dr. Chen suggested using four-dimensional mathematics that accounted for time as a navigational dimension. When the Jelonian life support specialists could not maintain stable atmospheric pressure in their variable density habitats, he proposed a system that treated atmosphere as a fluid rather than a gas. Each solution was simple once explained, but none of the coalition species had thought to approach the problems from such unconventional directions. The humans seemed to have a natural talent for ignoring the way things were supposed to work and focusing on the way things actually did work. Princess Lyra Nis heard about the humans' achievements from her personal advisor, who had been monitoring the engineering reports. This Dr. Chen has solved more technical problems in one day than our team solved in the past month, the advisor reported. One being cannot be that remarkable, the princess replied, though she sounded intrigued rather than skeptical. Perhaps you should see for yourself, Your Highness. The Queen has already scheduled a meeting with him tomorrow to discuss the defense grid project. That night, Princess Lyra Nis found herself unable to sleep. She kept thinking about the human and his unusual approach to problem solving. In a galaxy where most species specialized in specific areas of knowledge, the idea of someone who could work across multiple disciplines seemed almost magical. The next morning, she decided to observe the meeting between her mother and Dr. Chun from the adjoining chamber. Through the one-way transparent wall, she would be able to see and hear everything without being noticed. Dr. Chen entered the royal meeting chamber with the same calm confidence he had shown in the engineering bay. He did not seem intimidated by the ornate surroundings or the presence of the most powerful ruler in the coalition. When Queen Zarathes gestured for him to sit, he chose a simple chair rather than one of the elaborate floating platforms most visitors preferred. Dr. Chen, the Queen began, "My engineers tell me you have accomplished what they believed impossible. How did a species we have never heard of develop such advanced understanding of quantum mechanics?" "With respect, Your Majesty, I think the question might be backwards," Dr. Chen replied. "Humans did not develop advanced understanding. We developed practical understanding. We learned to work with what we had instead of trying to perfect what we wanted." Queen Zarathes leaned forward, her forearms folding in a gesture of deep attention. "Explain this difference. Most species seem to approach problems by trying to eliminate variables. You create perfect laboratory conditions, isolated systems, controlled environments. Humans learned that perfect conditions do not exist in the real world, so we learn to make things work in imperfect conditions. And, you believe this approach is superior?" Dr. Chen considered the question carefully. "Not superior. Different. Your approach creates very elegant solutions that work beautifully under ideal circumstances. Our approach creates messy solutions that work adequately under any circumstances. Both have value. Yet your approach solved our quantum field problem when ours could not. Only because your problem required working with messy real-world conditions. If you needed a perfect quantum field for a laboratory experiment, your approach would probably work better than mine." Princess Lyra Nis found herself fascinated by the human's humility. Most beings who achieved such remarkable success would boast about their superiority. Dr. Chen seemed genuinely more interested in understanding the problem than in claiming credit for the solution. The meeting continued for over an hour, with Queen Zarathes asking increasingly complex questions about human technology, philosophy, and problem-solving methods. Dr. Chen answered each question thoughtfully, often admitting when he did not know something or when human approaches had limitations. Finally, the Queen asked the question that made Princess Lyra Nis lean closer to the observation window. "Dr. Chen, would you be willing to remain on this station as a permanent advisor? The coalition would benefit greatly from your perspective on our various projects." Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "I would be honored, Your Majesty. But, I should mention that I am not the best human engineer. I am probably not even in the top 100. Earth has many people far more capable than I am." This statement shocked both the Queen and the hidden princess. If this remarkable being was not even among the best his species had to offer, what did that say about human capabilities? "Are you suggesting that Earth has hundreds of engineers more skilled than yourself?" the Queen asked. "In specific areas, yes. I am what humans call a generalist. I know a little about many things, but I am not an expert in anything. Earth has specialists who understand individual subjects far better than I do. The reason I was sent is that coalition problems seem to require someone who could work across multiple disciplines." "And your species has many such generalists?" "Every human is a generalist to some degree. We have to be. Earth is a very dangerous planet, and humans who could not adapt to different situations did not survive to reproduce. So we all learned to be flexible." After Dr. Chen left the meeting, Princess Lyra Nis remained hidden in the observation chamber, thinking about everything she had heard. This human represented something entirely new in her experience, a being who combined humility with capability, flexibility with determination, practical wisdom with intellectual curiosity. That evening, she asked her mother about the meeting. "What did you think of the human?" she inquired carefully. Queen Zarathes was reviewing reports on her personal display. "Remarkable. If his claims about human capabilities are accurate, Earth may become one of our most valuable member worlds. I have decided to offer them full coalition membership immediately rather than waiting for the probationary period to end."
Do you think Dr. Chen will accept your offer to stay? I believe so.
He seems genuinely interested in our projects, and I sense he finds our problems intellectually stimulating.
The Queen paused in her reading and looked at her daughter. Why do you ask? I am simply curious about this new species. They seem very different from other coalition members. Indeed they do. I suspect we will be learning much about humans in the coming months.
Princess Lyra Nis nodded and excused herself, but she could not stop thinking about Dr. Chen. There was something about his combination of confidence and humility, his willingness to admit limitations while still tackling seemingly impossible problems, that she found deeply attractive. Over the following days, she found excuses to visit the engineering sections where Dr. Chen was working. She told herself she was simply observing coalition operations, performing her royal duties, but she knew the truth was more complicated.
Dr. Chen seemed to enjoy the work immensely.
He moved from project to project, collaborating with different species, learning their approaches and sharing human techniques. He never claimed to have all the answers, but he always offered to try different approaches when conventional methods failed. The princess noticed that other beings were drawn to him as well. Despite being physically smaller and less imposing than most coalition species, Dr. Chen seemed to naturally become the center of any group he joined. People sought his opinion, asked for his help, and seemed to genuinely enjoy his company. What impressed her most was his treatment of junior staff members. While most senior engineers barely noticed assistant workers, Dr. Chen made a point of learning everyone's names and asking for their input on projects. He seemed to believe that good ideas could come from anyone, regardless of their position in the hierarchy. On the 5th day after his arrival, Princess Lyra Nis finally found an excuse to speak with Dr. Chen directly.
She arranged to conduct an official inspection of the defense grid project, which would require her to tour the construction site with the chief engineer.
When she arrived at the engineering bay, Dr. Chen was explaining quantum field theory to a group of young technicians using simple diagrams and analogies. He made the complex mathematics seem almost intuitive, breaking down advanced concepts into understandable pieces. Dr. Chen, Chief Engineer Morthgul interrupted, Her Royal Highness Princess Lyra Nis is here to inspect our progress.
Dr.
Chen immediately stood and offered what appeared to be a human gesture of respect, placing one hand over his heart and nodding his head slightly.
Your Highness, it is an honor to meet you. Princess Lyra Nis felt an unexpected flutter of nervousness.
Up close, the human was even more intriguing than she had expected. His eyes showed intelligence and warmth, and there was something about his presence that made her feel both comfortable and excited at the same time. Dr. Chen, she replied formally, I have heard remarkable reports about your contributions to our projects. I wanted to see your work personally.
I would be happy to show you around, Your Highness. Though I should mention that most of the real work is being done by your people. I just offer occasional suggestions.
As they toured the construction site, Dr. Chen explained the quantum field integration with the same enthusiasm he had shown to the junior technicians. He did not simplify his explanations because she was royalty, but neither did he show off with unnecessary complexity. He seemed to instinctively gauge her level of understanding and adjust his communication accordingly. The key insight, he said as they stood before one of the massive field generators, was realizing that quantum systems want to connect. Fighting that tendency creates instability. Working with it creates strength.
Is this a general principle of human engineering? The princess asked.
It is a general principle of human existence, Dr. Chen replied. We learned early that cooperation produces better results than competition, that working together creates possibilities that individuals cannot achieve alone.
Princess Lyra Nis found herself thinking about those words long after the inspection ended.
In coalition society, cooperation was certainly valued, but it was usually formal and hierarchical. Each species contributed their specific expertise while maintaining clear boundaries and distinctions. The human approach seemed to involve a much more fluid and intimate kind of collaboration. That night, she realized she was looking forward to seeing Dr. Chen again the next day. The thought surprised her. As princess of the coalition, she had met thousands of impressive beings from dozens of species, but none had captured her attention the way this humble human engineer had. For the first time in her life, Princess Lyra Nis found herself thinking about someone not as a political ally or a useful contact, but as an individual she genuinely wanted to know better. Dr. James Chen had been working on Zirian Station for 2 weeks when he noticed the princess watching him. At first, he thought it was coincidence when Princess Lyra Nis appeared in the engineering sections, but her visits became too frequent and too well-timed to be accidental. She always had official reasons for being there, but her attention seemed focused more on his work methods than on the actual projects. James found this both flattering and concerning. In his experience, when royalty took personal interest in someone, it usually meant either great opportunity or great trouble, and sometimes both at once. The breakthrough came during the 3rd week, when a crisis struck that tested everything they had built so far. The early warning sensors detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the star system, moving at speeds that suggested Void Reaper technology. The defense grid was only 60% complete, but it would have to be activated immediately.
Can the system function at partial completion? Queen Zarathes asked during the emergency meeting in the command center. Chief Engineer Morthgul looked uncertain. In theory, yes.
But we have never tested a partial network under combat conditions.
The quantum field interactions could destabilize under stress. Dr. Chen, the Queen turned to the human, what is your assessment? James studied the tactical displays showing the approaching threat.
The grid should hold, but not the way it was designed. We need to reconfigure it to work as a series of smaller, independent networks rather than one large system.
Think of it like a spider web instead of a single sheet of metal.
If part of it breaks, the rest continues functioning.
How long would such reconfiguration take? Asked Admiral Kethmore, the coalition's military commander.
With the right team, maybe 6 hours.
The Void Reapers will be here in 4 hours, the Admiral replied grimly. James nodded.
Then, we work faster.
Princess Lyra Nis stepped forward.
I will assist with the reconfiguration. Everyone in the room turned to stare at her. Your Highness, Admiral Kethmore said carefully, this is highly technical work. Perhaps it would be better if you coordinated the evacuation of non-essential personnel. I have studied quantum field theory, the princess replied firmly.
And, Dr. Chen will need people who can understand his modifications quickly.
I can help translate his instructions for the engineering teams. Queen Zarathes looked at her daughter with surprise, but nodded.
Very well.
Dr. Chen, you have whatever resources you need.
The next 4 hours became a blur of frantic activity.
James worked with teams of engineers from 6 different species, modifying quantum field generators that had taken months to build. Princess Lyra Nis proved invaluable, not just because of her technical knowledge, but because of her ability to coordinate between different groups and ensure everyone understood the urgency.
James found himself impressed by her capabilities.
Most royalty he had met were figureheads with little practical knowledge, but Princess Lyra Nis demonstrated real understanding of complex engineering principles. More importantly, she was not afraid to get her hands dirty, crawling through maintenance tunnels and operating heavy equipment alongside the regular technicians.
Your Highness, he said during a brief break, you did not learn quantum theory just to help with this project, did you?
She smiled, an expression that made her golden markings seem to glow.
I have been studying coalition technologies for years.
As future ruler, I need to understand the capabilities and limitations of our member species.
That is very practical thinking.
I learned it from watching humans work, she replied. Your species seems to believe that leaders should understand what they are leading. Before James could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The Void Reapers had arrived early. Through the observation windows, they could see the enemy ships materializing out of dimensional rifts. The Void Reapers were unlike any other species in the galaxy, beings of pure energy that had consumed dozens of civilizations and converted entire star systems into sources of power for their interdimensional empire.
Defense grid activation in 30 seconds, announced the computer.
James watched the tactical displays with growing tension. The modifications were complete, but there had been no time for testing.
Either the grid would hold, or the Coalition's most important station would be destroyed along with everyone on it. Quantum Field Networks Online. Void Reaper attack commencing. The first wave of enemy fire struck the defense grid like lightning hitting a mountain. Energy readings spiked across all sensors, and, for a moment, James was certain the entire system would collapse. But, the modified configuration held. Instead of trying to disperse the attack evenly across all generators, the grid redirected the energy through the network like water flowing around rocks. Grid holding, reported the tactical officer with obvious surprise. The Void Reapers increased their attack intensity, pouring more energy into their assault. The defense grid responded by redistributing the load dynamically, allowing damaged sections to go offline while other parts compensated. It was exactly what James had hoped for, but seeing it work under actual combat conditions was still thrilling. Dr. Chen, Admiral Kethmore called out, "Their attack patterns are adapting to our grid configuration. They are trying to overload specific nodes." James studied the enemy movements and realized the Admiral was correct. The Void Reapers were not just randomly attacking, they were systematically testing the grid to find weak points. "They learn fast," he muttered. "Can you counter-adapt?" Princess Lyra Nis asked. "Maybe. But, I would need to modify the grid configuration in real time, while it is under attack. That is incredibly dangerous. What is the alternative?" James looked at the tactical displays again. The Void Reapers had brought a much larger force than anyone had expected. Even with the defense grid operating perfectly, the station could not withstand a prolonged assault. "We fight back. The grid is defensive only," Admiral Kethmore pointed out. "Not if we reverse the quantum field polarity," James replied, his mind racing through possibilities. "Instead of absorbing and dispersing energy, we could collect and redirect it. Turn the grid into a giant energy cannon powered by their own attacks." Queen Zarathes leaned forward. "Is such a modification possible?" "In theory. But, it would require rewriting the quantum field equations in the middle of a battle. One mistake and the entire grid could explode with the force of a small star." The command center fell silent except for the sounds of battle raging outside. Everyone understood what James was proposing. It was either a brilliant solution or a catastrophic gamble that would destroy them all. "Dr. Chen," Princess Lyra Nis said quietly, "what do you need?" "A team of your best quantum engineers and about 20 minutes of protection while we work." Admiral Kethmore shook his head. "Our conventional weapons cannot hold them for 20 minutes. "Then, we make it 15 minutes, James replied. "Your Highness, can you coordinate the engineering teams?" Princess Lyra Nis nodded. "Tell me what to do." The next 15 minutes tested every skill James had learned in his years as an engineer. Working with alien technology while under attack, trying to modify systems he had only studied for weeks, relying on mathematical principles that pushed the boundaries of known science, it should have been impossible. But, Princess Lyra Nis made it possible. She anticipated his needs, translated his instructions instantly for the different engineering teams, and coordinated the work with efficiency that amazed even the experienced military officers. James found himself thinking that she would have made an excellent engineer herself if she had not been born to rule an empire. "Modification complete," announced Chief Engineer Morthgul. "But, I have no idea if it will work." "Only one way to find out," James replied. "Reverse quantum field polarity on my mark." He watched the tactical displays as the Void Reapers prepared for another massive assault. Their ships were positioning themselves for what appeared to be a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm the defense grid completely. It was perfect timing. Mark! The quantum fields reversed polarity instantly, and the defense grid transformed from a shield into a weapon. Instead of dispersing the Void Reaper attack, it collected every particle of energy and focused it into a single, devastating beam that lanced out toward the enemy fleet. The result exceeded everyone's expectations. The concentrated beam punched through 3 Void Reaper ships like a sword through paper, causing a chain reaction that destroyed half their fleet in seconds. The surviving ships immediately retreated back to their dimensional rifts,
apparently deciding that the coalition had become more dangerous than profitable. The command center erupted in cheers from officers of a dozen different species. James felt hands and tentacles and various other appendages patting him on the back as congratulations poured in from every direction. But his attention was focused on Princess Lyra Nis, who was looking at him with an expression he had never seen before.
"That was incredible," she said, and James realized she was not talking about the engineering achievement. Queen Zarathes approached them both.
"Dr. Chen, you have saved not just this station, but possibly the entire coalition. How can we repay such a debt?" James was about to give some modest response about just doing his job, but Princess Lyra Nis spoke first.
"Mother, I think Dr. Chen should be appointed as Chief Science Advisor to the Coalition Council." James looked at her in shock. "Your Highness, that is far too much honor. I am just one engineer."
"You are the engineer who solved our greatest crisis," the princess replied. "And you did it by teaching our people to think in new ways. That is exactly what a science advisor should do."
Queen Zarathes considered this proposal. "It is an interesting idea. Dr. Chen, would you accept such a position?" "I would be honored, Your Majesty."
"But I should point out that humans work best when they have autonomy to pursue unconventional approaches. Traditional bureaucratic hierarchies tend to limit our effectiveness."
"What would you need to be effective in such a role?" James thought carefully about the question.
"A small team of researchers from different species, access to current coalition projects, and permission to pursue solutions that might seem impractical or impossible."
"Granted."
"Princess Lyra Nis, I am placing you in charge of supporting Dr. Chen's new department.
You seem to work well together."
James caught the subtle smile on the princess's face and realized this had not been a spontaneous suggestion. She had been planning this moment, probably since the crisis began. The realization made him see her in a completely new light, not just as royalty who happened to be intelligent, but as a strategic thinker who could plan several moves ahead. Over the following days, as they worked together to establish the new Science Advisory Department, James found himself spending increasing amounts of time with Princess Lyra Nis. What began as professional collaboration gradually became something more personal.
She was unlike anyone he had ever met.
Her intelligence was obvious, but it was combined with curiosity about everything around her. She asked questions not because she needed to know the answers, but because she genuinely enjoyed learning new things. She listened to his explanations of human engineering principles with the same fascination he felt when she taught him about coalition politics and interspecies diplomacy. More importantly, she seemed to see him as James the person rather than Dr. Chen the famous engineer. When they worked late into the night on research projects, she would bring food from her personal kitchen and insist they take breaks to talk about their lives, their hopes, their dreams for the future. James learned that being princess of the coalition was not the glamorous life most people imagined. She carried enormous responsibility for billions of beings across dozens of star systems. Every decision she made could affect the lives of entire civilizations.
The pressure was constant and unrelenting.
"Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be just a normal person," she confided one evening as they sat in her private garden, surrounded by plants from across the galaxy. "To be able to make choices based on what I want rather than what is best for the coalition."
"What would you choose to do if you could be anyone?" James asked.
"I think I would be an explorer," she replied without hesitation. "I would travel to unknown worlds and study alien cultures and try to understand how different species think about the universe."
"What about you? If you could be anything other than an engineer?" James considered the question.
"Probably a teacher. I enjoy helping people understand how things work, seeing the moment when a difficult concept suddenly makes sense to someone."
"You are already a teacher," Princess Lyra Nis pointed out. "You have taught all of us new ways to approach problems."
"True. But I mean teaching individuals, not entire civilizations." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars wheel overhead. James found himself thinking about how easy it was to talk with her, how natural it felt to share his thoughts and feelings with someone who truly listened.
"James," she said softly, using his first name for the first time, "may I ask you something personal?" Of course. Do you ever think about what your life might be like if you stayed here permanently?
I know you came as a temporary advisor, but you seem to have found a place in our society.
James felt his heart rate increase. The question seemed to carry implications beyond simple curiosity about his career plans. I have thought about it, he admitted.
There is something appealing about the idea of building something lasting here, of being part of creating a better future for all these different species.
And what concerns you about staying? Honestly?
The fact that I am falling in love with someone who is going to rule a galactic empire, and I have no idea whether that is a wonderful thing or a terrible thing. Princess Lyra Nis turned to look at him directly, her golden markings glowing brightly in the starlight.
Why would it be terrible? Because I am just a human engineer from a small planet most people have never heard of. Because you deserve someone who can match your intelligence and your importance in the galaxy. Because I have no idea how to be worthy of someone like you.
She reached out and took his hand, her 4 fingers intertwining with his 5 in a gesture that felt completely natural despite the biological differences. James, you solved problems that our greatest minds could not solve. You saved this station and, possibly, our entire civilization. You treat every person you meet with respect and kindness regardless of their species or position.
How could you think you are not worthy?
Because none of that matters if it does not make you happy, James replied. And I have no idea what would make the princess of the coalition happy in a relationship with a human.
Princess Lyra Nis smiled, an expression of pure joy that made her entire face luminous. You make me happy just by being yourself. You make me laugh when you tell stories about Earth. You make me think when you explain human philosophy.
You make me feel like I am more than just my title and my responsibilities. Lyra, James said, using her name for the first time as well, I need you to know that if we pursue this, there will be complications. Political issues, cultural differences, probably opposition from people who think a human is not suitable for the coalition princess.
There will also be advantages, she replied. A bond between our species could strengthen the coalition. Our children could bridge the gap between human and alien cultures. And we could explore the galaxy together, combining human adaptability with coalition resources. James felt a surge of emotion so strong it surprised him. The idea of exploring the galaxy with Lyra, of building a life together that combined their different strengths and perspectives, was more appealing than anything he had ever imagined. You have thought about this carefully, he observed. I have thought about little else for days, she admitted. James, I know this is complicated and potentially difficult. But I also know that what I feel for you is unlike anything I have ever experienced. I do not want to lose it because of fear about what others might think. James stood up and moved closer to her, taking both her hands in his. Lyra, I am falling in love with you too. Not because you are a princess, but because you are brilliant and kind and brave and beautiful. If you are willing to face the complications together, then so am I. She stood as well, and for a moment they simply looked into each other's eyes, 2 beings from different worlds and different species, recognizing something in each other that transcended all those differences. When they kissed, it felt like the most natural thing in the universe. News of the relationship between Princess Lyra Nis and Dr. James' chin spread through Zirian Station like ripples across water. At first, it was whispered rumors among the engineering staff who had noticed their growing closeness during the crisis. Then, it became open speculation among the administrative personnel who saw them walking together through the station corridors. Finally, it reached the Coalition Council as formal reports about potential diplomatic implications. Queen Zarathes learned of her daughter's romantic involvement from her intelligence advisor during their weekly security briefing. Admiral Kethmore presented the information with careful neutrality, but his concern was obvious. Your Majesty, there have been consistent reports that Princess Lyra Nis and Dr. Chen have developed a personal relationship beyond their professional collaboration. Our sources indicate this relationship has become intimate. The Queen set down her data tablet and considered this information carefully. She had suspected something was developing between her daughter and the human engineer, but she had hoped it would remain a minor infatuation that would fade over time. What is your assessment of the political implications? She asked. complex, Your Majesty.
On the positive side, a marriage alliance with humanity could strengthen our ties with Earth and demonstrate coalition commitment to integrating new member species. Dr. Chen's reputation has made humans generally more respected throughout coalition space.
And the negative implications? Admiral Kethmore shifted uncomfortably.
Some council members are concerned about the precedent. If the princess marries outside traditional coalition nobility, it could encourage other royal families to make similar choices, potentially disrupting established political alliances. Additionally, we know very little about human reproductive compatibility with our species.
Queen Zarathes nodded.
The political concerns were real, but they were not insurmountable. The biological questions were more troubling, not because they represented a barrier, but because they raised issues about succession and the future of the coalition royal line.
Has anyone discussed these concerns with Princess Lyra Nis directly? No, Your Majesty.
We felt it was appropriate to inform you first.
Schedule a private meeting with my daughter.
I will speak with her myself. The meeting took place that evening in the Queen's personal chambers, a space designed for intimate family conversations rather than official business. Princess Lyra Nis arrived precisely on time, wearing informal clothing but carrying herself with the dignity expected of coalition royalty. Mother, Admiral Kethmore said you wanted to discuss something important with me. Queen Zarathes gestured for her daughter to sit beside her on the comfortable seating area near the large observation window.
Lyra, I understand you have developed feelings for Dr. Chen.
The princess's golden markings dimmed slightly, a sign of nervousness.
Has this become a matter of official concern?
It has become a matter of maternal concern, the Queen replied gently. I want to understand your feelings and your intentions before it becomes a political issue.
Princess Lyra Nis relaxed slightly.
I love him, Mother. I know that probably sounds impulsive or naive, but I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about James.
He makes me want to be a better leader, a better person. When I am with him, I feel like I can accomplish anything. And, have you considered the practical implications of such a relationship?
Of course. We have discussed the political complications extensively.
James is concerned about the same things I am sure your advisors are concerned about.
But, Mother, when has the coalition ever advanced by avoiding challenges?
When have we ever grown stronger by maintaining the status quo?
Queen Zarathes smiled at her daughter's passionate response.
That sounds like something Dr. Chen might say. Actually, it sounds like something you taught me when I was young.
You always said that leadership means making difficult choices for good reasons, not easy choices for comfortable reasons. The Queen considered this for a long moment. Her daughter was right, of course. The coalition had grown and prospered by embracing new members, new ideas, new possibilities. Rejecting a relationship because it was unprecedented would contradict the very principles that made the coalition strong. Lyra, if you choose to pursue this relationship seriously, you will face opposition from some council members. You will also face practical challenges that no coalition princess has ever encountered.
Are you prepared for that?
I am prepared to face any challenge if it means building a life with the person I love, Princess Lyra Nis replied without hesitation. And I think our relationship could benefit the coalition as much as it benefits us personally.
How so? James represents everything that makes humanity valuable to our alliance.
Their adaptability, their creativity, their ability to find new solutions to old problems. If I marry him, our children will inherit both human flexibility and coalition authority.
They could help lead the next generation of coalition development. Queen Zarathes felt a surge of pride in her daughter's strategic thinking. Even in love, Princess Lyra Nis was considering the greater good of their civilization. And, Dr. Chen?
Does he share your vision for the future? He shares my commitment to making the coalition stronger and more inclusive.
We have talked about traveling to member worlds together, studying how different species solve problems, finding new ways to promote cooperation and understanding.
That actually sounds like an excellent way for you to prepare for future leadership responsibilities, the Queen observed. Learning about our member species firsthand would give you insights no other coalition ruler has possessed.
The princess looked surprised. Does that mean you approve of our relationship? It means I approve of the thoughtful way you are approaching it.
Lyra, I married your father because I loved him, but also because our union strengthened the coalition by joining two powerful families. If your relationship with Dr. Chen serves both your personal happiness and our political interests, then I see no reason to oppose it. Princess Lyra Nis threw her arms around her mother in a gesture of pure joy.
Thank you, Mother. Your support means everything to me.
However, the Queen continued, you will need to handle the announcement carefully. The Coalition Council will require time to adjust to the idea, and some member species may have concerns about precedent and tradition.
What do you suggest? Formal engagement after 6 months, marriage after 1 year.
That will give everyone time to observe your relationship and see that it benefits rather than threatens coalition stability. It will also give you and Dr. Chen time to address any practical concerns about your future together. The next morning, Princess Lyra Nis found James in his new laboratory, working on a project that involved improving communication systems between species with radically different sensory capabilities. He was so absorbed in his work that he did not notice her enter until she spoke.
James, we need to talk.
He looked up with a smile that faded when he saw her serious expression.
That sounds ominous. Have I done something wrong?
No, you have done everything right. But my mother knows about our relationship, and we need to discuss how to handle the political implications. James set down his tools and gave her his full attention.
What kind of political implications?
The kind where some coalition council members might object to their future queen marrying outside traditional nobility.
The kind where our children might face questions about their legitimacy as heirs to coalition leadership. The kind where every decision we make will be scrutinized for signs that human influence is changing coalition policy.
James was quiet for a long moment.
Lyra, if my presence in your life is going to create political problems for you, maybe we should reconsider this relationship. I do not want to be the reason you face opposition from your own people.
Princess Lyra Nis moved closer to him and took his hands.
James, you are not creating political problems. You are creating political opportunities. The coalition has always grown stronger by embracing diversity. Our relationship is just the next step in that process. What does your mother think?
She thinks we should announce our engagement in 6 months and marry in 1 year. She believes the relationship could benefit both our personal happiness and coalition interests.
James looked surprised. She approves?
She approves of the thoughtful way we are approaching this. She also thinks traveling to member worlds together would be excellent preparation for my future leadership responsibilities.
Traveling together, James repeated thoughtfully. That actually sounds amazing.
We could study how different species solve problems, document successful cooperation techniques, maybe even develop new approaches to interspecies collaboration.
See?
You are already thinking like a future coalition leader, Princess Lyra Nis said with a smile. Over the following months, their relationship became progressively more public and more accepted throughout coalition space. James's reputation as the engineer who saved Zirian Station gave him credibility with political leaders, while his humble personality and genuine respect for alien cultures made him popular with ordinary citizens. They made their first joint public appearance at a ceremony honoring the engineering teams who had rebuilt the defense grid. Standing together before representatives of dozens of species, they looked like a symbol of coalition unity, human adaptability combined with traditional royal authority. The speech Princess Lyra Nis gave that day became famous throughout coalition space. She spoke about the importance of embracing new ideas and new partnerships, about the strength that comes from diversity, about the future they could build together if they remained open to possibilities that might seem unusual or unprecedented. The coalition succeeds because we welcome new members, new technologies, new ways of thinking, she said. Today we honor not just the engineers who saved this station, but the spirit of cooperation and innovation that makes our alliance strong. When beings from different worlds work together toward common goals, we accomplish things none of us could achieve alone. James watched her speak with growing admiration. She had transformed what could have been a simple awards ceremony into a statement about coalition values and future possibilities. Without ever mentioning their relationship directly, she had made it clear that their partnership represented those same principles of cooperation and mutual respect. After the ceremony, they were approached by delegations from several member worlds who wanted to discuss potential collaboration projects. The Zephyrian Trade Council invited them to visit their flying cities and study aerial agriculture techniques. The Gelonian Research Institute wanted to show them bioengineering projects that could benefit multiple species. The Crothery military leaders suggested joint exercises that could improve coalition defense capabilities. It seems like everyone wants to work with us, James observed as they reviewed the various invitations.
They want to work with what we represent, Princess Lyra Nis corrected. A new model for coalition leadership, one that combines different perspectives and approaches. Are you ready for that kind of responsibility?
Are you? She asked in return. James considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, he had been a simple engineer content to work on technical problems. Now he was being asked to help shape the future of a galactic civilization.
It was intimidating and exciting in equal measure.
I think I am ready to try, he said finally. Especially if we face it together. The formal engagement announcement came exactly 6 months after their first conversation in Queen Zarathus's garden. The ceremony took place in the main assembly hall of Zirian Station, with representatives from every coalition member world in attendance either in person or via quantum communication link. Queen Zarathus presided over the ceremony, speaking about the historic significance of the union between her daughter and Dr. Chen. She emphasized how their relationship embodied coalition values of cooperation, mutual respect, and shared commitment to building a better future for all species. Today we celebrate not just the engagement of two individuals, but the strengthening of bonds between all our member worlds, the Queen announced. Princess Lyra Nis and Dr. Chen represent the best of both human innovation and coalition wisdom. Together, they will help lead us into a new era of prosperity and cooperation. The ceremony included traditional elements from both human and coalition cultures. James presented Princess Lyra Nis with a ring crafted from materials found on Earth, while she gave him a crystal pendant that had been worn by coalition royalty for generations. The symbolism was clear to everyone present. This was not just a marriage between two individuals, but a joining of two civilizations. The reception that followed became a celebration of interspecies cooperation.
Engineers who had worked with James shared stories about human problem-solving techniques.
Diplomats who had met Princess Lyra Nis spoke about her vision for coalition development. Citizens from dozens of worlds offered congratulations and expressed hope for the future their union represented. Late that evening, as the celebration wound down, James and Princess Lyra Nis stood together on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The defense grid they had built together created a subtle shimmer in space, a reminder of what they could accomplish when they combined their different strengths. 6 months ago, I was just an engineer who came here to solve a technical problem, James said.
Now I am engaged to marry the future queen of the coalition. How did my life become so extraordinary?
Your life became extraordinary the moment you decided to approach problems differently than anyone else, Princess Lyra Nis replied.
You changed everything just by being yourself. What do you think the future holds for us?
Adventures we cannot imagine, challenges that will test everything we believe, opportunities to make the galaxy a better place for everyone who lives in it. She took his hand and squeezed it gently. And, through it all, we will face it together. As they watched the stars wheel overhead, both of them felt the weight and promise of the future they were building together. It would not be easy, and there would certainly be obstacles and opposition along the way. But they had something that could overcome any challenge: love, respect, shared values, and an unshakable commitment to making their relationship serve not just their own happiness, but the greater good of all the species in their care. The human engineer and the coalition princess had found in each other not just romantic love, but a partnership that could help shape the future of galactic civilization. And that, they both agreed, was worth any price they might have to pay. The wedding planning began immediately, with delegations from every member world offering to contribute to what would become the most celebrated interspecies union in coalition history.
But, more importantly, their joint work continued as well.
Together, they began designing programs to promote better cooperation between member species, to share technological innovations more effectively, and to prepare the coalition for whatever challenges the future might bring. When Queen Zarathes was asked later by historians what made her approve of her daughter's unconventional choice, her answer became part of coalition folklore. "I knew Dr. Chen was the right choice for Lyra the moment I saw how they worked together during the crisis." Individual brilliance is valuable, but shared wisdom is invaluable.
Together, they are stronger than either could be alone.
That is what the coalition needs in its future leaders. And, indeed, that partnership would guide the coalition through decades of prosperity, exploration, and growth, proving that sometimes the most important diplomatic alliance is the one formed not between governments, but between hearts.